So we are given a function with the following funny identity that f of x plus 1 plus f of x minus 1 is root 2 f of x, and it turns out that f of x is actually periodic. So f of x plus some quantity is gonna be f of x for all x. And it's really one of those problems that you just play around with and eventually find a solution. So I assume you have already attempted to solve it, and now I will proceed with the solution. So I think a natural idea here is to consider f of x plus 2. So using this identity, you know that you can rewrite it as root 2 of f of x plus 1 minus f of x. And then, since f of x plus 1 plus f of x minus 1 is root 2 f of x, what is this guy going to be? Root 2 of x plus 1 is going to be equal to two f of x minus root 2 f of x minus 1. So if we substitute it here, we will get 2f of x minus root 2 f of x minus 1 minus f of x, which is going to be combining f of x terms together, just f of x minus root 2 f of x minus 1. But now if we use the identity again for x minus 1 here, you know that it just becomes minus f of x, because we substitute x minus 1, plus f of x minus 2. And so we get minus f of x minus 2. So what can you notice? We have traveled minus 4 units in x, and we have arrived at a flip of the number, right? We have arrived at the negative of the number. So now you can of course realize that this procedure can be repeated for this number, and then if we go minus 4 again, we will get f of x minus 6, and the sign will be reversed again, so we'll get a plus. So overall, connecting the two ends of the identity, we have that f of x plus 2 is f of x minus 6, and again if we apply a shift, we can just write it as f of x is f of x minus 8, which is what we wanted. So the period is 8.